Chapter 251, Chatting with a Self-Proclaimed God. I wasn't expecting you to come back here. That jutsu you used should have put quite the toll on you since you shot it instantly, right? Will you be okay? Yeah, no worries. I don't plan to fight right now. You don't? No, for now, I just want to confirm how reliable Hisoka's information is. And Tilda? Hee, and I want to have some fun by messing with them. As expected. Yuna let her gaze wander over the people that were standing around her, and when her eyes met Itachi, Obito, and Zetsu's, she gave them a knowing smirk. While Obito's face behind the mask twisted in hatred when he met Yuna's eyes and Zetsu felt a little fearful, Itachi kept his stoic face while praying with every fiber of his body that Yuna wouldn't reveal what happened inside the Tsukuyomi a few years ago. As the silence grew more oppressive, Yuna finished her inspection, and her eyes met a ripple-patterned pair of eyes that were currently owned by Pain, the so-called leader of Akatsuki. So this is the Akatsuki, huh? Honestly, I am not impressed. I mean, just look at this shabby hideout. That statue you use as decor is beyond hideous while taking up way too much space. Additionally, the room isn't even adequately heated. Just look at it. Due to your negligence, it became cold enough in here for snow to fall, and one of your employees even turned into an ice block and shattered. Don't you have at least a little pity for the people that are working for you? What kind of boss forces his people to work in the freezing cold like this, Pain? Although Pain was annoyed by Yuna rambling on and on, he was slightly shocked that Yuna actually knew his name. His identity was supposed to stay hidden for now, and despite that, Yuna knew about him. Yuna's facial expression didn't change at all, but inwardly, she was pretty happy with Pain's minuscule reaction. Although as somewhat expected it, the name matched with Hisoka's story, so let's fish some more. Oh? I guess you don't want your identity to be known, so how about I give you a nickname? Before Pain could retort, Yuna's smile grew even wider as she continued speaking. Hee, how about I call you Nagato from now on? I think that name fits you rather well. Pain was a little shaken by Yuna knowing the name of his created identity, but when Yuna actually revealed his real name, he couldn't help but be flabbergasted. How? So that piece of information is correct as well, huh? Good to know. You want to know how I know about that name? Hee, in front of my eyes, no secret can be hidden, and no truth can be concealed. I need but a glance and all your secrets will be exposed to me. As Yuna finished speaking, her eyes shone with wisdom as her gaze yet again wandered over everyone present. While doing so, she gave Zetsu a wink while giving him a knowing smile, resulting in his whole body shivering in terror. Does she know about my plan of resurrecting Mother? Impossible. I have never told anyone about that. Not even that full Madara knows anything about Mother. Is she trying to trick me into revealing information about my true goal by pretending that she already knows about it? That might be possible, but I am not falling for that. As I expected after my first meeting with her, she is the most significant variable in my current plan. Worst case, I'll have to retrieve the Rinnegan from Nagato and wait until she dies of old age. Although that will take some time since she is in Uzumaki, if it means succeeding in Mother's resurrection, I don't mind waiting another 100 years. While Yuna was looking around the room again, Pain was quite shaken by Yuna's climb, but he managed to regain his calm moments later. Whether that is a bluff to throw me off or you actually managed to awaken that kind of Kekkei Genkai, it does not matter. No matter how many secrets you dig up in front of the power of a god, it is meaningless. Haha, correct. In front of someone who reached the necessary power and comprehension to reach the level of godhood, I am just a mere speck of dust that could be killed instantly, but I am not sure what that has to do with our conflict. Pain arrogantly lifted his head when he heard Yuna's words. It is good that you know your place. As for what it has to do with our conflict, isn't it obvious? Or do you recognize God when he is in front of you? I am God. PFFF cough ha ha cough. I apologize, he coughed. That was very unprofessional. I shouldn't laugh at someone with a mental disorder. Payne frowned at Yuna when she started mocking him, but moments later, his aloof expression returned. It does not matter what you think. I possess the eyes of God, therefore, I am God. Yet again, Yuna chuckled a little before shaking her head with a pitying smile on her face. For now, I will assume that God you are comparing yourself with is the sage of the 6 paths, whose eyes you indeed currently possess, but calling yourself a god just because of that, isn't that a little bit too funny? Just because you have the tool of a god doesn't make you a god. I see no god in front of me, just a toddler holding a legendary weapon. Payne wanted to interrupt Yuna's speech, but when he attempted to do so, powerful pressure started radiating out of Yuna, while the weather inside the cave that was previously just a mild snowfall turned into a raging blizzard. Is godhood really something that can be removed just by losing your eyes? Is a god such a fragile being? No. The blizzard became even more powerful, and despite the pain and the room only being a projection of a puppet he was controlling, Nagato started to feel cold. A god's power transcends mortal understanding. Rejoice, for this great one will allow you a glimpse. Yuna flicked her finger towards Payne's projection, causing a small icicle to fly towards it. It barely touched Payne's cheek and then pierced into the cave wall, boring through it, and finally vanished into the distance. At first, Payne was confused by what Yuna just did, but suddenly he felt a wet sensation on his cheek. After checking what it was, his eyes widened in surprise. Right now, he had a small cut on his cheek, and it wasn't just on the one body he was controlling, it was on all 6 of them and his own as well. He couldn't help but be shaken when he saw his own blood as Yuna's words resonated in his mind. A god's power transcends mortal understanding. Impossible, how could she possibly be a god? She is just a slightly powerful young wormer. While Nagato was in deep contemplation, the 7 point of views he possessed due to the Rinnegan saw the same thing simultaneously. Spladex 7. His 6 puppets and his main body were all hit with a cake in the face simultaneously. Although Nagato had no understanding of how Yuna did it, he felt the emotion called fear for the first time in quite a while. Chapter 252, The Tao Advances. An eerie silence covered the cave as everyone except for Yuna was staring at the place where Payne just disappeared from in disbelief. None of them understood what just happened. The only thing they saw was Yuna shooting a small icicle towards Payne's projection, and the moment it flew past him, his projection disappeared. An arrogant sneer appeared on Yuna's face as her gaze wandered over the remaining people. What a puny god. I give him a little distraction, and his concentration breaks immediately. Yuna noticed that despite her display just now, most of the people in the room were still looking at her with hostility clearly written on their faces. Yuna could only shake her head when she saw that and continued speaking. Honestly, I have no reason to be in conflict with most of the people inside this room, and if you don't attempt to hurt the people close to me from now on, it will stay like this. The moment Yuna finished speaking, a dangerous glint flashed through her eyes as her gaze landed on Obito. That being said, the last time we met, you only survived because I had more important things to do, so the next time, I will turn you into a corpse. Obito clenched his teeth as anger flooded his whole body when he heard Yuna's words, but moments later, he pushed it all down. It wasn't time yet to reveal his real self to the other members of Akatsuki. Why do you want to kill Toby? Toby is a good boy. Yuna gave Obito, who suddenly adapted a childlike personality, a weird-out look, but after a short moment of contemplation, she understood the situation. Ah, I see, seeing your beloved Rin getting killed right in front of you while being completely powerless to stop it has caused a split personality to emerge. Is that why you pretended to be Madara the last time we met? Dealing with a loss like that is rather unhealthy, so I advise you to seek some help to get over Rin's death, which you were too weak to prevent. Yet again, an oppressive silence covered the room. Although no one but Yuna, Obito, and Zetsu knew what Yuna was talking about, her words were doused in sarcasm, so it was rather evident that she was mocking Toby. Before Yuna could say anything else, Toby, or rather Obito, snapped. "You damn bitch, I will definitely kill you. Not just you, I will kill everyone you know right in front of your eyes and will laugh as despair covers your face." After seeing Obito losing control, Yuna chuckled a little and wagged her finger towards him. "See? You lied. Toby definitely isn't a good boy. Next time we meet, you better prepare yourself to get punished, hee hee." Without huming Obito any further, Yuna teleported out of the cave, leaving behind the inender steaming Obito and the remaining Akatsuki members who were looking at him weirdly. Moments later, Yuna reappeared inside her bedroom inside the Uzumaki compound, and the moment she did, she staggered a little and fell on her bed face first. "As expected, you overdid it again." "Haha, you were exaggerating, Kurama, it wasn't that bad. I can't even begin to understand how that cake attack worked, but what I know is that it must have cost you enormous amounts of mental strength. There is no way you are okay after doing something that ridiculous. It really wasn't that bad. I used the icicle to establish a connection between him and me and then just send the cakes through. The hard part wasn't sending the cakes but establishing the link. That is why I used ice for it, which I am far more proficient in than cakes. So we have reached a point where we use the word proficiency in connection with the word cake, huh? Well, I think it is rather reasonable to do so at this point, ha 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 cough." The moment Yuna started laughing, she coughed up some blood and spluttered it all over her bed. "So Tilda, didn't she say you were fine?" That's just tomato juice." "Why is that a question? Teihei Tilda. Could you stop with the Teihei nonsense?" Okay, calm down, Kurama. It seriously isn't that bad. A day or two of rest and I will be back to 100%. That might be the case, but why did you even push yourself so far? You already confirmed that Hisoka's intel seemed to be mostly true, so there was honestly no point in making a move like that on pain. When Yuna heard Kurama's words, she turned around so she could lie on her back instead of her stomach and looked at the ceiling. After a few minutes of silent contemplation, a wry smile appeared on her face while she heaved a sigh filled with annoyance. "Kurama, although I don't like to admit it, as someone who once reached the pinnacle of power, I have a lot of pride in what I achieved. Usually, I suppress it since overwhelming pride rarely brings any advantages, but when I saw that little brat proclaiming himself a god because someone plugged a pair of powerful eyes into his eye sockets, I had to teach him a lesson. Imagine spending millions of years refining yourself, meditating, training, researching to reach where you are, just to have someone proclaim that they have reached the same level because someone implanted some magic eyes into him. Unacceptable. A human might not care about the actions of an ant, but if the ant gets too annoying, it will still be squashed, and that is precisely what I did. I did something that even his eyes won't help him comprehend." Kurama stayed silent after he heard Yuna's words as he thought about what she just said, and a few minutes later, he started speaking again. "No, I can't imagine it. That kind of time frame is too absurd for me to comprehend, but I more or less know where you are going with this." Yuna chuckled a little before nodding her head in acknowledgement. She was just about to stand up and teleport to Fu to take a look at how she was doing when Kurama started speaking again. "But what I comprehend, to some degree, is you, so I don't believe for even a single second that the only reason you did that cake attack was that you lost control over your pride." Yuna couldn't help but chuckle yet again as a mysterious smile appeared on her face. "The best way to advance your Tao is to push yourself. Great hardship begets great progress. So, in other words, you wanted to try and see if you could do it. Koffer the were. The Tao moves in mysterious ways. Right. Chapter 253, For My Cute Sister. Yuna teleported out of the cave and left an uncomfortable silence behind. Although some people were still giving the fuming Obito weirded out looks, they were doing so not because he was hiding his real identity and personality from them, which, frankly, they couldn't care less about, but because he willingly pretended to have such an embarrassing personality. A few more moments of silence later, Itachi scoffed in disdain. As I previously said, Uzumaki is a threat, but this time I paid more attention to her actions, so I managed to see through her intentions. When the other Akatsuki members heard Itachi's words, everyone looked at him with curiosity and immediately noticed that Itachi had his Manjikyu Sharingan activated. When Kasame saw that, he started speaking. "Oh, as expected of you, Itachi. So, what did you see? She came here to trick us. To make us afraid of her and, in the best case for her, make us fight each other. She did so by using her superior knowledge about seals to make her actions look incomprehensible to our eyes. Ha ha ha, so that is what happened. I have no clue about seals, so it is only natural that I didn't understand the situation, but as expected, the Sharingan can see through stuff like that." There was a minuscule twitch in Itachi's eyebrow when he heard Kasame's words, but he still kept his stoic face. "I don't specialize in seals, so I couldn't understand everything, but what she did certainly wasn't some kind of unachievable feat." This time it was Deidara's turn to speak. "Ha ha ha, so it was like that. She will pay for tricking me like that. I will show her my art." Itachi disinterestedly nodded his head at Deidara's words, and moments later, he cut the connection and his projection vanished. Inside another, much smaller cave, the real Itachi opened his eyes. He was rather happy that Kasame currently wasn't with him because the moment he opened his eyes, he held his head in pain while blood started leaking out of his eyes. What the fuck was that? What kind of attack was that? I couldn't understand everything, my ass. Just seeing it almost caused my head to burst. While his consciousness was still in the projection, he could suppress the backlash from seeing Yuna's attack with his Sharingan, but now that he was back in his real body, that was no longer possible. Kakashi and Danzo both received a backlash when their Sharingan tried to copy Yuna's special attack. The reason for that was a combination of not being an actual Uchiha and trying to receive too much complex knowledge all at once. Itachi's case was a little different. He was, after all, a full-fledged Uchiha that even had an evolved Sharingan, so he didn't have the same weakness Kakashi and Danzo had. The difference was that this time, Yuna's attack wasn't supposed to simply cut everything in its path like the previous one. Despite looking like a simple icicle, it was a highly complex attack that had a multitude of seals and intent mixed into it, so not even Itachi's Manjikyu Sharingan could minimize it. Itachi took another deep breath while wiping away the blood on his face and shakily stood up. Despite what he just experienced, a small smile appeared on his face. "Well, everything is fine. Considering how I downplayed Yuna's actions as nothing special and the pride and arrogance of the Akatsuki members, they probably won't start fearing Yuna. That is good. In fact, some of them might even feel challenged and attempt to attack Yuna on their own, which would be perfect. I genuinely hope they go out of their way to challenge Yuna just to be completely obliterated. The more of these maniacs die, the better." Itachi took another deep breath as powerful determination started burning in his eyes. "Sire, hope that after you kill me, you can at least appreciate all the things I am willing to go through for you, Sasuke-chan." The image of a young woman with black hair and eyes that was glaring at him appeared in Itachi's mind as a fond smile appeared on his face. "I will do everything for you, my cute little sister." Meanwhile, Yuna, who was still lying on her bed, opened her previously closed eyes as a mischievous expression appeared on her face. Just as I expected, Itachi dismissed what I just did while egging on the other members to attack me. Considering that we have met 3 times now, I expected him to have a decent grasp of my personality and strength, and I was correct. His end goal should still be protecting Sasuke, and the best way to do so is to eliminate as many threats as possible. Having a bunch of Akatsuki members challenge me to a fight because of their pride or whatever, and consequently getting killed, is obviously a good thing for Itachi. Well, are you fine with doing someone else's dirty work? Usually not, but since the dirty work is killing a bunch of arrogant meatheads, I don't mind. In fact, I'm looking forward to it. Guess I should have expected that kind of answer from a battle junkie, huh? Ha ha ha, you should. Yuna slowly stood up, and after checking if she could move around properly, she gave a slight nod of approval. The Uzumaki bloodline in combination with your chakra sure is a cheat, huh? This regeneration speed is insane. Snort, isn't that obvious? Yes, yes, you are the greatest, Kurama. Yuna did a few more stretches, and after confirming that she was in a decent condition, she prepared herself to teleport again. Well then, let's take a look and see how Fu is doing, shall we? MMPH, I don't care about that Fu girl, I only hope that Chomai is fine. Yeah, I know. Big angry fox that hates humans. I haven't forgotten your image. Image. It is not an image. I don't care about humans in the slightest. I am the QB no Yuko, and I... Yes, as I was saying, big angry fox that hates humans, I got it. Chapter 254, Fu makes another friend. A groan escaped Fu's mouth as she slowly regained consciousness. Ugh, what is going on? My whole body is hurting. After gathering her wits for a short moment, her eyes opened wide in surprise. I am alive. What happened? An annoyed snort echoed through the room, and someone else started speaking. Isn't that obvious? I saved you when you were about to die and gave the people that tried to kidnap you a good scolding. A happy smile appeared on Fu's face when she heard Yuna's familiar voice, but the moment her eyes met with Yuna's, her smile faltered due to Yuna currently glaring at her. When she saw Yuna glaring at her, Fu guiltily lowered her head and started speaking. Hello, Yuna. How are you? Unlike the idiot who was around 1 minute away from dying when I arrived at the scene, I am rather well. Fu lowered her head even further without retorting Yuna's words. Fu. When Fu heard Yuna use her name in a much softer tone than she previously did, Fu looked up with a hopeful expression on her face, but the moment she did, Yuna's hand appeared in front of her forehead and gave it a powerful flick, resulting in Fu holding her head in pain. Ow, why did you do that? That was the punishment for acting stupid. Now, can you tell me why you decided not to call for help despite being clearly outmatched? I didn't want to put you in danger as well. I don't want to see my friends getting hurt. Flick. Ow. Why did you flick my head again? This time, it was for saying something stupid. A pout appeared on Fu's face as she started glaring at Yuna. But it's true, I don't want to see my friends getting hurt. Yuna rolled her eyes at Fu's words and started lecturing her. That is not the problem here. Of course, you don't want to see your friends hurt, but what is the point if you die in the process? You might not want to see your friends getting hurt, but do you think your friends would be happy seeing you die? What would you feel if one of your friends sacrifices themselves just to prevent you from getting hurt? Fu's eyes widened in surprise when she heard Yuna's words. She didn't think about that at all. This, I am sorry for acting stupid like that, Yuna. When Yuna saw that Fu had repented, she nodded her head in approval. It's good that you understand. We are currently inside the Uzumaki compound. I want you to stay here for now. Takigakure isn't strong enough to protect you, so you would be in danger if you return there. Fu's eyes widened in surprise when she heard Yuna's words. You want me to stay here? Then what about Shibuki? I don't think he will be happy if he hears about this, and besides that, I don't want to leave him just like that. Yuna simply waved Fu's worries away and continued her explanation. No need to worry about that. I will go over to Taki, explain why you being inside Takigakure isn't a good idea, and fetch Shibuki so that you can have a chat with him. Fu pondered Yuna's words, and moments later, a broad smile appeared on her face. All right, that sounds good. Yuna nodded her head and prepared herself to leave. Okay, that is all for now. Stay in bed and rest some more, and I will send someone over to bring you food soon. Fu happily nodded her head, but moments later, she heard Yuna's following words, and her face twisted in despair. Oh, I almost forgot, no head pats for 2 weeks. Why? That's so cruel. Yuna snorted in disdain when she heard Fu's words. MMPH, did you really think you could get yourself almost killed, and the only punishment you would receive is merely 2 finger flicks to the forehead? Fu pouted as she looked at Yuna with a hurt expression. But those 2 finger flicks really hurt, okay? Well, they were part of your punishment, so that is only natural. Fu's pout deepened even further while Yuna left the room while lightly chuckling to herself. Meanie. Only a few minutes passed since Yuna left, and Fu was already getting bored of lying on the bed and doing nothing. She was just about to stand up to go on a little adventure when another person appeared in the middle of the room. Due to the person's dangerous presence, Fu immediately got wary. Who are you? What do you want from me? My name is Hinata, and I'm Yuna's first wife. I want to know what your intentions with Yuna are. At first, Fu was a little confused when she heard Hinata's words, but a beaming smile appeared on her face moments later. That's so awesome. I didn't know that Yuna had a wife. Why didn't she tell me about that? Anyway, I don't really understand what you mean by intentions, but Yuna is my friend. Hinata was a little dumbfounded by Fu's reaction, but for now, she continued questioning Fu. I see, so she is your friend. Is there anything else? Fu tilted her head in confusion when she heard Hinata's question. Like super good friends. Well, Yuna is the first friend I made. Is there maybe some unique name for that? I never left my village before, so I wouldn't know about that. First friend. Oh okay, then what? Haha, that's right, she is my first friend, but she actually helped me make some more friends. Now even Chomei became my friend, isn't that awesome? See Chomei. The beach. Anyway, my goal is to make 100 friends, and I'm already a good way to there. I see. While Hinata was faltering more and more, Fu's eyes sparkled in excitement due to having a good idea. I know, let's become friends as well, Hinata. Friends. That's right. You are Yuna's wife, right? So you should be like really close with her, right? Since Yuna is my first friend and you are her wife, I think we should also become friends. Oh okay. Yes. I made another friend. Let's get along from now on, Hinata. Sure. Moments later, Hinata left the room with a defeated look on her face. She shakily made her way to her room and collapsed on her bed. An annoyed scowl appeared on her face as a deep sigh escaped her mouth. So what are you even doing, Hinata? If you continue acting like that, then even Yuna's patience may end one day. First, I actually pushed Yuna away with a jutsu, just so she wouldn't come in contact with that princess, and now I wanted to kill someone as innocent as that Fu girl due to my irrational jealousy. Damn it, what am I supposed to do? Every time I imagine Yuna getting a new girl, my whole mind is filled with dangerous thoughts like that. So I need to talk with Yuna about this. Silence covered the room before another sigh escaped Hinata's mouth. So you are already here, aren't you, Yuna? Without any prior indication, Yuna appeared in the middle of the room with a mischievous smile on her face. You really know me well, my cute little Hinata Tilda. Although Hinata blushed a little when she heard Yuna's words, she at least had built up some resistance against Yuna's teasing over the last few years, so it wasn't too bad. Without waiting for Hinata to say anything, Yuna casually sat down next to Hinata, who was still sprawled on her bed. Well, you wanted to talk with me, so let's talk, Hinata. Chapter 255, Not the First Wife. While Hinata was still lying on her back, Yuna casually sat next to her and waited for her to start speaking. A few minutes had passed, but Hinata hasn't said a word so far despite opening and closing her mouth multiple times. Yuna could easily see that she was getting more and more unsure of what she even wanted to say and how she wanted to say it. Yuna shook her head and decided to give Hinata a little push. She stood up, and before Hinata could say anything, she sat down onto Hinata's hips and leaned forward, effectively trapping Hinata under her. "Why, Yuna, what are you doing, MMH?" Before Hinata could finish speaking, Yuna leaned down some more and kissed her, causing her to hum in pleasure. After kissing for a few seconds, the two separated again, resulting in Hinata pouting and Yuna smiling at her in amusement. "Why did you do that, you moan?" Yet again, Yuna kissed Hinata before she could finish speaking and separated from her a few seconds later. This time, instead of speaking, Hinata took a deep breath to calm down her taut nerves. Hinata understood that Yuna kissed her to make her relax and make it easier for her to start the conversation, but she still couldn't help being annoyed and happy at the same time at how easily Yuna could calm her down. "So thank you for calming me down, Yuna. I am fine now." No problem. But I always enjoy calming you down." Without teasing Hinata any further, Yuna rolled to the side and landed next to Hinata on the bed. To Yuna's surprise, Hinata rolled with her, and now their positions were exchanged. Without saying anything else, a blushing Hinata leaned down and kissed Yuna just like Yuna previously kissed her, and moments later leaned back up again, breaking up the kiss. "I love you as well, Yuna." Instead of answering Hinata, Yuna only smiled at her happily while motioning for Hinata to continue speaking. This time, it didn't take long for Hinata to gather her thoughts, and moments later, she started the actual discussion. "Don't you find me annoying, Yuna? My jealousy is getting worse and worse, and by now, I have even reached a point where I even consider killing off women that get close to you. Isn't it fine as long as you just consider it and not actually do it? How is that fine? Aren't I completely insane? If this keeps getting worse, I might actually kill someone innocent just because of my irrational jealousy." Although Hinata's voice was getting louder and louder as tears were about to spill from her eyes, Yuna patiently waited for Hinata to finish her rant before softly cupping Hinata's face with her hands and giving her a warm smile. On the one hand, Hinata felt a little ashamed when she saw Yuna smiling at her like that because Yuna's facial expression looked like one a mother would use to talk to her sad child. On the other hand, however, Hinata loved the warm feeling it was giving her. "Is that really how you perceive yourself, Hinata?" Hinata tilted her head in confusion when she heard Yuna's question. "Well, yes. Just now, I went to Fu's room and genuinely considered killing her just because she was interacting with you." "And? Did you?" "No, she overwhelmed me with words, and before I knew it, we became friends." While Hinata blushed a little when she thought about how easily Fu defeated her, Yuna couldn't help but chuckle a little. "Yeah, she tends to do that, but that isn't really important now. You seem to have overseen something rather crucial about your own behavior, Hinata." Hinata looked at Yuna in confusion when she heard her words. After all, it was her own behavior, so Hinata didn't think like she missed anything, but considering Yuna usually doesn't mess around in a situation like that, she patiently waited for Yuna's following words. "If you are so jealous of other women, then what about Enko?" Enko? Well, I got kind of used to her. Well, I guess you could even say that we have gotten rather close. Yuna rolled her eyes at Hinata, who was pretending that she didn't share quite a few kisses with Enko by now, and simply continued talking. "Very well, let's pretend Enko is a special case and ignore my argument. Then, what about Karen? Since she acts as my maid and is one of my genin, you occasionally interact with her, but those interactions are clearly entirely different from the one you have with Enko. What is that about? If it is about getting rid of women that are close to me, then Karen is clearly the easiest target." Well, even if we dismiss Karen as another special case, there is still my Terumi left. So far, you have had no contact with her, and you only know how she looks due to her Binger book entry. Despite that, you are making no plans to get rid of her. When I returned home after meeting Mai for the first time, you started asking all kinds of questions about her, but after you were satisfied, you stopped caring. So, Hinata, what do you think this is all about? Hinata was utterly gobsmacked when Yuna finished speaking. She never thought about why she suddenly stopped paying attention to Mai. Anko and Karen's cases could still be argued away, but no matter how Hinata looked at it, Mai's couldn't. I don't know. In that case, let me tell you what I think is actually the case. You don't like more women joining my harem, that is indeed the case, but not the main point. The moment they become part of it, you no longer seem to be annoyed by their presence, as if the problem wasn't more women being part of my harem but something else. Do you know what that something is, Hinata? Like always, Yuna let people come to their own conclusions as she patiently waited for Hinata to digest her words. The problem isn't being in the harem but something else. I don't want them to join, but as soon as they join, I'm okay with it. That is true. What is going on? Why am I fine after they joined? It's because after they entered, I confirmed that they wouldn't threaten my position, so I was okay with it. I feared that they would take away my position, but after confirming that was not the case, I no longer mind it. Yep, I came to the same conclusion, and, by the way, this is where you have another misunderstanding. You do not have the special status you believe you have. When she heard Yuna's declaration, Hinata's eyes widened in shock as tears threatened to come out of her eyes. Why you don't think of me as special? Yuna could only roll her eyes at Hinata's misunderstanding and lightly pinched her cheek. Please listen to my words properly, Hinata. You have a special status, just not the one you believe you have. Although Hinata calmed down considerably when she heard Yuna's words, her emotions were still in turmoil. So you don't think I'm your first wife? Of course not. As I said, you are misunderstanding something. You have a special status, but so do Anko, Karen, and Mai. This is not a race or a contest of who I favor the most. I'm not some random king or emperor who can't handle their harem correctly, resulting in them constantly killing each other. I don't do things half-heartedly. On the one hand, Hinata felt slightly devastated when Yuna said that she didn't consider her the first wife, but on the other hand, Yuna's words after that managed to calm her down considerably. What kind of unique position do I have? A mischievous smile appeared on Yuna's face as she pulled Hinata's face closer to her own, just stopping when their noses were about to touch and their eyes are only a few centimeters away from each other. You are my cute, little Hinata, that gets easily embarrassed when I tease her, gets jealous when other women are mentioned, and is calm and collected during combat. It's a unique status only you can hold. Before Hinata could say anything, Yuna pulled her head down some more, resulting in their lips touching yet again. Chapter 256, Did somebody order some lemons? You are my cute, little Hinata, that gets easily embarrassed when I tease her, gets jealous when other women are mentioned, and is calm and collected during combat. It's a unique status only you can hold. Although Hinata felt like Yuna's words were kind of silly, they still resonated deeply within her. Up until now, she always felt like she needed to fight for her position by Yuna's side, but after hearing Yuna's words, she realized that that was not the case. I'm really foolish for even considering that Yuna would do something the normal way after knowing her for such a long time. She never acted with common sense, so how could the harem she wanted to create be something normal in any shape, form, or fashion? Honestly, Hinata could not imagine a harem of the size Yuna was aiming for could possibly function in a way that made every single member of it feel special, but this was far from the first time that Yuna did something that should have been impossible, so Hinata discarded that notion rather quickly. Before Hinata could think about Yuna's words any further, Yuna's lips touched hers and she couldn't help but moan in pleasure. Everything felt much easier now that she no longer had to vie for her self-made title of the first wife. While the two were tongue wrestling, one of Hinata's hands slowly crept up Yuna's hips and headed towards her breasts. She no longer needed to win some kind of self-made competition, so she started getting bolder in her actions. Despite that, just when Hinata's hand was about to touch one of Yuna's breasts, it stopped, and a few moments later, they stopped kissing. When Yuna saw the uncertainty in Hinata's eyes, she could only roll her eyes. "Sometimes you are surprisingly dense, Hinata." "Huh?" Before Hinata could ask any further questions, Yuna grabbed the hand that was hovering above her breasts and pushed it down, resulting in Hinata grabbing one of them. At first, Hinata got flustered and wanted to struggle free from Yuna's grip, but moments later, she realized something else. "Why you re-aroused as well?" Yet again, Yuna rolled her eyes. "I think I made it relatively clear that I desire you as well, so I'm not entirely sure why you assume that I don't. Considering how much experience I have, I do understand that you are insecure about your, let's call it performance, but you should discard all those worries. This is not a competition, Hinata. Let's just enjoy ourselves and have fun. If you want to improve your technique, I can always help you with that." A sadistic grin appeared on Yuna's face that aroused and frightened Hinata in equal measures. "Hee, if you want, I can train you plenty, Tilda." Yet again, Hinata couldn't help but shudder. She could more or less guess what kind of training Yuna had in mind, and she could only smile wryly when she realized that it made her a little excited. Hinata discarded the unnecessary thoughts with a shake of her head while leaning down again and giving Yuna another deep kiss while the hand that was already holding one of Yuna's breasts started massaging it. Hinata was elated when she heard a small moan escape Yuna's mouth. After all, that meant that her inexperienced touch was pleasurable to Yuna as well. Before Hinata realized it, two hands descended on her butt and started massaging it, resulting in her moaning in pleasure as well. As the two continued rolling around on Hinata's bed, she didn't even realize that Yuna somehow managed to remove not only her own clothes but Hinata's as well, but even if she did, she wouldn't care due to her desire to be with Yuna flooding her body. While one of Hinata's hands was still kneading Yuna's breasts, the other one started slowly probing Yuna's pussy. Hinata grew even more excited when Yuna was just as wet as Hinata felt she herself was and slowly inserted one of her fingers into Yuna's pussy, while she could feel Yuna do the same to hers. Another loud moan escaped Hinata's mouth when she felt Yuna slowly enter and exit her pussy, and moments later, a slightly frustrated whine escaped her as Yuna pulled out her finger and broke apart their kiss. "Why Yuna, don't stop? Hee, it seems like I am not the only one who is aroused." As Yuna said that, she showed Hinata the wet finger she just pulled out of her, causing her to wiggle and shine. Don't tease me." Hearing the frustration in Hinata's voice, Yuna couldn't help but chuckle a little as she put the still wet finger in her mouth and sucked on it, resulting in Hinata getting even more embarrassed. Tilda, delicious. How about having a taste?" Before Hinata could react, Yuna gave her another deep kiss. Although this wasn't the first time she tasted her own juices, now that Yuna's saliva was mixed into it, she found it truly delicious and wondered how Yuna's pussy would taste. As the duo continued pleasuring each other, their moans became louder and louder while the number of fingers that were masturbating the other person's pussy increased to 2. Hinata could feel that she was getting closer and closer to climaxing and that Yuna was in a similar state. Without even realizing it, she increased the piston speed of her fingers. At the same time, she invaded Yuna's mouth far more aggressively than she previously did, and moments later, Hinata could feel that she was about to go over the edge. "I'm coming, Yuna Montilda." "Me too, Hinata." "Keep going, Montilda." Moments later, both of their bodies started shuddering in pleasure as an orgasm overwhelmed them at the same. Hinata could feel everything around her go white for a moment, and moments later, she woke up on top of Yuna with her face pressed into Yuna's chest, while Yuna's hand was gently combing through her hair. Although Yuna was looking at her with a relaxed smile, Hinata could clearly see some amusement hidden behind it. Hinata met Yuna's gaze, and moments later, a pout appeared on her face. "You were allowing me to take the lead, weren't you?" Yuna chuckled a little as she continued combing through Hinata's hair. "I was." Hinata's pout intensified as she continued speaking. "Why? Why not? Didn't you enjoy it?" A small blush appeared on Hinata's face as she buried her face between Yuna's breasts and murmured her answer. "I did." Although Hinata's voice was somewhat muffled, Yuna could still hear it easily. The reason why she allowed Hinata to take the lead was obviously so Hinata could get some confidence in herself, and Yuna was pretty sure that Hinata knew that as well. "Did you fake it?" Yuna rolled her eyes at Hinata's question and answered it with a smack to her bum, which caused Hinata to yelp in surprise. "Silly girl, why would I do that? What is the point of making you think that you can pleasure me while you actually can't? Wouldn't that result in you learning all the wrong things?" Hinata could only blush a bit at Yuna's light scolding. No matter how often Yuna squashed her insecurities, they would occasionally pop up again, which annoyed Hinata quite a bit. Before Hinata could ask any further questions, a smirk appeared on Yuna's face as she lifted up Hinata's chin and forced her to meet Yuna's gaze. "Anyway, how about we go for a second round?" Yet again, Hinata squirmed at the embarrassing question but nonetheless nodded her head in agreement. Before she realized what was going on, Yuna sealed her lips with her own as Yuna's hands started roaming all over Hinata's body. This time, it was completely different than the first time. While the first time felt like a slow back and forth, as the duo's pleasure was constantly increasing, now Hinata felt like she was one-sidedly getting overwhelmed by Yuna. Every time Yuna touched a part of her body, pleasure rushed through her as moans were constantly leaving her mouth. Although Hinata tried to fight back, she could barely form a proper thought, as her mind was overwhelmed by pleasure. Only a few moments later, Hinata reached the next orgasm as her whole body started shuddering from the stimulation. After she regained some of her bearings, Hinata noticed that Yuna was looking at her with the same smile as she previously did, but there was a tiny sadistic twinkle in her eyes this time. "What a bad girl, you came all by yourself, Tilda. You will have to compensate me for that, won't you?" Hinata shivered in pleasure when she realized what Yuna was doing. By now, she pretty much had accepted her preferences, so there was no longer any point in denying it. She enjoyed being dominated, and that was precisely what Yuna was setting up right now. Hinata licked her lips in excitement as she started speaking with a lust-filled voice. "Yes, Yuna-sama." A slight smirk appeared on Yuna's face when Hinata called her Sama, since it pretty much meant that Hinata was giving her the okay to get a little rougher. Yuna sat down on the edge of the bed and spread her legs apart while motioning for her Hinata to move in front of her. Yuna noticed that Hinata was freely ogling her pussy while hiding her own and her breasts with her hands, but Yuna only chuckled in amusement and didn't say anything about it. Instead, a single word left Yuna's mouth. "Lick." A spark of pleasure shot through Hinata's body when she heard Yuna's commanding voice and immediately understood what she meant. With only a moment of hesitation, Hinata kneeled down between Yuna's legs and clumsily started licking her pussy. She noticed that her current position was slightly uncomfortable, so she was just about to lift her arms and put them on Yuna's legs to support her upper body when Yuna issued another command. "Hands behind your back." Hinata did as she was told but couldn't help but feel slightly uncomfortable. At first, she liked it when Yuna took a commanding tone, which she had previously done to tease her, but now Yuna seemed to be much more severe, without any of the usual playfulness. As suddenly as her worries appeared, they were diminished just as fast when one of Yuna's hands started slowly stroking her head. If her face weren't currently buried between Yuna's legs, she would have chuckled at her own worries. "There is no need to worry. As long as I am with Yuna, I'm entirely safe." While Hinata was pleasuring Yuna with her tongue, she noticed that it was completely different from doing so with her finger, but she nonetheless gave her best to make Yuna feel as much pleasure as possible, and only a few minutes later, she managed to bring Yuna to another climax. Despite that, she continued kneeling in front of her with her hands behind her back. She wasn't sure why, but it felt appropriate. Moments later, Yuna recovered from her orgasm and lifted Hinata's chin with a slight smile on her face. "Well done. I would praise you by calling you a good girl, but are you really one? Tell me, Hinata, are you a good girl or a bad girl?" Hinata looked into Yuna's eyes and quickly understood what she meant. Yuna basically left the choice of how to continue to Hinata. If she said that she was a good girl, they would do the next round similar to the first, and if she said otherwise. Hinata licked her lips in excitement before she answered Yuna's question. "I am still a bad girl, Yuna-sama." A smirk appeared on Yuna's face when she heard Hinata's answer. She removed her hand from her chin, and instead of softly lifting Hinata's chin with her hand like she previously did, she forced her to look up by pulling her hair just hard enough to feel forceful without being painful. "I see, then I guess I have to punish you some more, Tilda." Chapter 257, the next morning. Yuna lazily opened her eyes, and when she felt two soft mounds pressing into her right arm, she couldn't help but smile. It has been a while since she had her last sexual encounter, and the first time she had one in her new life, so she was feeling pretty great right now. She let her eyes wander over the still sleeping Hinata, and her smile widened a bit further. Although Yuna didn't push Hinata too hard last night, there was still some light marks left on Hinata's skin. Her butt still had some pink marks on it from Yuna giving it the occasional slap, her wrists still had some light markings from Yuna tying them together at one point, and there were a few light hickeys on Hinata's breasts and neck. After confirming that the damage would probably be gone by the end of the day, Yuna nodded in satisfaction and started hugging Hinata while softly stroking her back. A few moments later, Hinata started to move as a content hum escaped her lips. She wasn't sure why, but she felt especially good today. She lazily opened her eyes and smiled when she saw Yuna's face directly in front of her. "Good morning, Yuna." Yuna chuckled a little at Hinata's usual greeting and greeted her back in the same fashion. It wasn't unusual for the two of them to wake up like this, but today's circumstances were undoubtedly a little bit different than usual. Yuna was pretty sure that Hinata's brain hadn't started properly and that she hadn't realized the current situation yet. Hinata closed her eyes again and enjoyed the comfort of Yuna's skin some more before a slight frown appeared on her face. "Wait a moment, why can I feel Yuna's skin? Are those Yuna's B breast pressing into me?" Hinata's eyes opened instantly, and when she saw Yuna's teasing smirk, she finally remembered what happened yesterday and that both of them were currently naked. Hinata's face flushed crimson as she tried to get away from Yuna's grasp, but this was precisely why Yuna hugged her before she woke up. She wanted to enjoy Hinata's embarrassment properly. "Ha ha ha, what's wrong, Hinata? Considering all the stuff we did yesterday, I don't think there is anything shameful about being naked together." Hinata managed to blush even harder as she somehow tried to hide herself, but when she realized that she couldn't get away, she decided to push her head into Yuna's breasts. Like this, she could at least hide her embarrassed face from Yuna. Yuna chuckled again as she slowly started to comb through Hinata's hair while calmly stroking her back to make her relax. A few moments later, tension slowly started to leave Hinata's body, and after she managed to calm down properly, she raised her head to look at Yuna's face with a shy smile on her face. "I love you, Yuna." Yuna's smile widened as she lowered her head and gave Hinata a small kiss on the lips. "I love you as well, Hinata." Hinata sighed in contentment as she started hugging Yuna a little harder. She could stay like this for a long time, but unfortunately, Yuna had other plans, which Hinata realized when she heard a perverted chuckle coming from Yuna. "Hee, how about we take a little bath together to get rid of last night's sweat?" Although Hinata's blush returned when she heard Yuna's words, she still shyly nodded her head in agreement. After getting Hinata's agreement, Yuna stood up without a moment of hesitation and picked up Hinata in a princess carry, causing her to yelp in surprise. "Why, Yuna, what are you doing?" "I can walk on my own." Yuna raised her eyebrows in doubt when she heard Hinata's words. Nevertheless, she complied. "If you think so, then go ahead." Hinata was a little surprised that Yuna would give up so quickly, but when her 2 feet landed on the ground and tried to carry her own weight, she understood why she did so. The moment she put even a little bit of weight on her feet, her legs started wobbling like they were made of jelly, and she would have fallen on the floor if Yuna didn't pick her up again. While Yuna was giving her a smug look, Hinata started glaring at Yuna. "So this is why my legs felt so weird. You went too far yesterday, Yuna. Now that I think about it, you only stopped after I begged you to. No, in fact, you even kept going a little longer. Hee, oops. Sorry about that, but you were simply too cute to stop." Hinata's glare intensified while she started blushing in shame, but since she could barely move her body, she did the only thing she could do in her current position and lightly bit into one of Yuna's breasts, causing her to fake a yelp of pain. "Oh wow, I give up. Please forgive me, Hinata-sama." Hinata chuckled at Yuna's antics and gave her an aloof look. "I forgive you, but you better compensate me for my grievances." This time it was Yuna's turn to chuckle as she leaned down and gave Hinata another kiss. "All right, as compensation, I will pamper you a lot today. How about that, Princess Hinata?" Hinata could only shake her head with a wry smile when she heard Yuna's words. "Why do I get the feeling that I will be taken advantage of if I accept that compensation?" "That is probably because you will." Hinata's wry smile became even more pronounced when she heard Yuna readily admitting to it, but instead of retorting, she sunk into deep contemplation. Yuna noticed that Hinata was done bantering and concluded that she accepted her offer. She started moving towards the bathroom while still carrying Hinata, and just when she was about to enter, Hinata resumed speaking with sincerity in her voice. "Honestly, Yuna, thank you for picking me up all those years ago." A wide smile appeared on Yuna's face, and she leaned down to give Hinata another kiss. "Don't worry about that, I'm pretty sure we are even. You got a new lease on life, and I got a beautiful woman for my harem." Hinata rolled her eyes at Yuna's words but nonetheless gave her a kiss as well. "I love you, Hinata." Yuna. Chapter 258, Bullying the Bully. Yuna spent a few more hours pampering Hinata, and when it was early afternoon, Hinata said that she was satisfied with her compensation while murmuring something about feeling like delaying Yuna's leave any further would be dangerous. Yuna couldn't help but chuckle at the words Hinata said under her breath. She had a pretty good idea of what she was talking about, and the moment she left Hinata's room and closed the door, the inevitable happened. Bondage style, tortoise shell instant rope binding technique. Ropes shot at Yuna from everywhere, snaked into her clothes, and tied her up. Despite having ropes tied all around her body, Yuna didn't fall over and even had an amused smile on her face. "That is a rather interesting technique you developed there, Anko." When Yuna said her name, Anko appeared next to Yuna, threw her over her right shoulder like a sack of potatoes, and walked towards her room. "Well, I had quite a bit of free time since I expected you to leave Hinata's room in the morning instead of the afternoon." Hearing quite a bit of annoyance in Anko's voice, Yuna could only smile wryly. "Yeah, sorry about that. I overdid it a little, and Hinata couldn't stand on her own when we woke up, so I decided to pamper her a bit as compensation." Anko staggered a little when she heard that Hinata had problems standing, but a short moment later, she regained her composure and a broad smile appeared on her face. "Damn, she couldn't stand. You must have been quite hard on her, huh?" "Not really. The problem wasn't how hard I played with her but for how long. It was already past midnight when we were done, and at that point in time, she wasn't even capable of forming a full sentence anymore, ha ha ha." Whistle, that sounds intense. Well, since it is Hinata, she probably enjoyed every second of it. She did. Moments later, a mischievous smile appeared on Yuna's face, and although Enko couldn't see her face, she immediately felt like Yuna was planning something interesting. How about I show you the memory in my Minscape when we have some free time? A perverted grin appeared on Enko's face as she nodded her head in agreement. Hee, but I want Hinata to watch it with us. That will probably double the enjoyment we can get out of it. Oh. That's a great idea. As expected of a pervert. Enko snorted in disdain and gave Yuna's butt a smack. Who are you calling a pervert, pervert? You, of course. Enko smacked Yuna's butt again before retorting. No matter how I look at it, you are the greater one between the two of us. I am not just the greater one, I am the greatest, but that doesn't prevent you from being a pervert. Enko felt that something was wrong with the last few exchanges, and after pondering for a short moment, a tick mark appeared on her head, and she gave Yuna's but a few more spanks. You damn brat, I didn't call you great, I called you a great pervert. Ha ha ha. Hearing Yuna laugh aloud while getting her butt spanked by her, Enko couldn't help but chuckle a little and stopped spanking and opted for groping instead. Enko could only sigh at Yuna's antics. The more time she spent with her, the more she enjoyed Yuna's presence, and by now, she had long passed the threshold she never planned to cross. When Enko first met Yuna and she suggested having some fun together, Enko treated it as an offer for some casual sex when they wanted to release some stain. That, somehow, became a full-blown relationship within a short few months, and before Enko knew it, it became something even more profound. If someone asked her whether she thought she would ever fall in love with someone 5 years ago, she would have laughed in that person's face, but here she was, having feelings for a weirdo like Yuna. Yuna simply clicked too well with her not to fall in love with her. This current situation, for example. The ropes binding Yuna were just that. Normal ropes. Even an average genin could get out of that, but Yuna decided to let Enko play her game and have some fun despite that. Well, considering it was Yuna she was currently bullying, Enko was pretty sure that she would face some form of retaliation sooner rather than later, but that was a problem future Enko would have to deal with. Yuna, whose butt was still getting massaged by Enko, noticed her shift in mood, so how could she not tease her? Oh, my Tilda, we're getting emotional, Enko. Are you finally ready to profess your love to me? Enko staggered a little when she heard Yuna's words, and moments later, the tick mark on her face made a reappearance and she resumed spanking Yuna. You damn brat, stop acting so cheeky. Ha ha ha, there is no shame in loving me, Enko, for I am the greatest. Can you get any more shameless? No, for I am already at the peak of shamelessness. Fa ha ha. What the hell is the peak of shamelessness? Is that a mountain somewhere in Kuma? Yuna's serious-sounding proclamation that she was at the peak of shamelessness was too much for Enko. She could no longer keep her composure and started laughing, while Yuna began laughing as well, despite not really understanding what Enko found so funny. How weird, I only told the truth. I'm not sure what's so funny about that. You are indeed at the peak of shamelessness. Well, yeah. I mean, I just said that, didn't I? A few moments later, Enko managed to calm herself down and continued walking towards her room while still carrying the tied-up Yuna. When they reached the door, Enko gave Yuna a vicious smirk before she started speaking again. Any last words before I ravage you, Yuna? Yeah, there are some. I love you, Enko. Enko almost choked on her own spit when she heard Yuna's proclamation. Her eyes bulged out while her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She might have realized her own feelings for Yuna, but that didn't mean she was willing to say them out loud. What am I supposed to do now? I'm not good with stuff like that. Should I just ignore what I just heard? No. That's a bad idea. I should just say it. It's just 3 words. Easy peasy. I just have to tell Yuna that I lololo. Damn it, Enko, stop being a wuss. You can do it. Anko took a deep breath to prepare herself, while Yuna's smile became wider and wider. She found Anko's struggle rather amusing, so she enjoyed every second of it. I love you as well, Yuna. What was that? I couldn't hear you, Anko, my love. Anko gnashed her teeth at Yuna's blatant teasing. She considered just stopping, but she already decided to say it, and she was not a quitter. I love YOUYUNA. MHHH. I had some trouble understanding the middle part of that sentence. Could you repeat it, my love? This time, Anko snapped. She kicked open the door to her room while picking up Yuna from her shoulder and tossing her into the room and on her bed. Damn it, I love you, Yuna, and now shut up and prepare to get fed. Chapter 259, What is this? Even more lemons. Although Anko was still slightly blushing from yelling something embarrassing, she quickly buried her embarrassment in favor of focusing on Yuna, who was lying tied up on her bed. She waited for this moment for a long time, after all. When she first made a deal with Hinata that she wouldn't sleep with Yuna before Hinata did, she didn't give it much thought. In her mind, Yuna was a horny teenager who couldn't wait to have her first experience and would egg Hinata on every chance she got. A few years later, Anko found out why Yuna hadn't eaten up Hinata despite so many years passing. She wasn't a horny teenager, she was a horny goddess who had no trouble waiting multiple years to do the deed finally. Although Anko considered breaking her promise with Hinata multiple times, in the end, her friendship with Hinata was too important to her to do so. Anko's grin became more and more perverted as she thought about all the things she and Yuna would do tonight, but the moment Anko saw Yuna's face, her mind came to a standstill. Her eyes were watery as if she was about to cry, and her gaze was constantly wandering around the room. There was a shy expression on her face and even a light blush on her cheeks. If Anko were to summarize Yuna's condition, she would simply say, "This is my fetish." Anko could feel her rationality slip, and she was just about to pounce on Yuna when she heard the voice of reason speak to her in her head. Anko, calm down. This is precisely what she wants. If you attack her mercilessly now, her counterattack will be just as relentless. Anko took a deep breath to calm down her raging libido and quickly analyzed the situation. I see, so that is what she is planning. Both of us have sadistic tendencies, but if she allows me to live out my preferences with her while she plays the masochist, I'll have no grounds to complain if she wants to do the same. Unfortunately for her, I am not that easily tricked, hee. Meanwhile, Yuna struggled to get out of the ropes binding her, and after realizing that she couldn't get out, she gave Anko a teary-eyed look while the blush on her face grew more intense. Oh okay, Anko. I am fine with doing it like Tidus, but please be gentle. Shudder. The sound of Anko's rationality shattering echoed through the room as her concerns about whatever plan Yuna might or might not have instantly left her mind. Well, I'm going to hell anyway, so I might as well get a taste of heaven while I have a chance. Without another word, Anko pounced on Yuna and tore her clothes apart within an instant. Seeing the naked and still-bound Yuna lying on her bed with a blush on her face, Anko grew even more excited as one of her hands started stroking Yuna's breast while the other one found its way to her wet folds. Yuna moaned loudly as Anko's hand started softly stroking her pussy, and moments later, Anko leaned down and gave Yuna a deep kiss, which she reciprocated maybe a little too happy for her current role, but Anko saw it as a sign from Yuna that she didn't mind Anko continuing. While one of Anko's hands was stroking Yuna's breasts and occasionally pinching one of her nipples, the first finger of Anko's other hand slowly entered Yuna, resulting in another loud moan. Moan, Anko, not so fast. Moan. Although Anko heard the words Yuna squeezed out in between her moans, she barely registered them. She was simply too engrossed with playing with Yuna's body as every one of Yuna's reactions aroused her more and more. A short while later, a second and then a third finger started masturbating Yuna's pussy, while Anko's thumb would occasionally stroke against her clit. Her other hand was on Yuna's right breast, massaging it while occasionally pinching her nipple while her mouth was sucking the other one. Moans were constantly escaping Yuna's mouth as she somehow attempted to form a complete sentence. This continued a little bit longer, and the moment Anko gave Yuna's clit another flick with her thumb, a loud scream escaped Yuna's mouth as a powerful orgasm rocked her body. When Anko heard Yuna's scream and saw her whole body shaking from the powerful orgasm, her face paled. I fucked up. Her reactions were so perfect that I lost myself. I have a terrible feeling about this. And indeed, before Anko could understand what happened, Yuna and Anko's roles were reversed, with Yuna now looming over Anko. Although Anko still wore her clothes, while Yuna was still naked, that didn't make Anko feel safe at all. I have to admit that was pretty fun, Anko. I hope you are ready to experience the same. When Anko saw the predatory smile on Yuna's face, she couldn't help but shiver a little. Why Yuna, I'm sorry, okay. I got utterly lost in the pleasure of playing with you calf. See, can't we talk about this? Yuna's predatory smile changed to a kind one, which caused Anko to sigh in relief. Yuna leaned down, and Anko popped her lips to receive Yuna's kiss, but instead of kissing her, Yuna's head stopped next to hers, and she whispered a single word into her ear. No. Anko's face paled at Yuna's ruthless rejection, but before she could say anything else, Yuna had already removed her clothes, and her hands started roaming all over Anko's body. Moan y Yuna cca. Moan ww moan. Just like Yuna before her, Anko had no chance to get out a single word, as pleasure was constantly flooding her body, resulting in constant moaning. Unlike Anko, who mainly concentrated her attack on Yuna's slit, breasts, and mouth, Yuna stimulated her all over the body. Her fingertips would wander over her hips, resulting in Anko's whole body. Shuddering just to pinch her two nipples, resulting in a muffled moan of pain and pleasure. Next, her fingernails would lightly stroke over Anko's spine, causing her whole body to be covered in goosebumps while she shuddered in pleasure. Despite Yuna not even having touched her pussy, a loud scream escaped Anko's mouth as she was having a mind-shaking orgasm that resulted in her limbs spasming around and her whole body twitching. Yuna had played with many women in her past life, so bringing a woman to orgasm by just lightly touching her all over her body was incredibly easy for Yuna. Anko wasn't even tied up, but despite that, she couldn't resist Yuna at all simply due to her arms and legs constantly losing strength from the pleasure wreaking her body. Yuna gave the still vibrating body of Anko a satisfied nod. Honestly, she didn't mind occasionally taking a more submissive role as long as the party that requested it was willing to deliver some compensation for it. Right now, Yuna was somewhat satisfied with Anko's compensation. A few moments later, Anko managed to get her body under control, and as soon as she did, she lifted her head so she could glare at Yuna, causing her to chuckle. Well, how was it? Anko's glare intensified, but moments later, she flopped on the bed with a defeated look on her face. It was torture. And Tilda? Do you really want me to say it, huh? Yep, Tilda. Anko could only groan when she heard Yuna's demand, causing Yuna to chuckle yet again. If it helps you, I did enjoy it when you took control, Anko. Anko's eyes bulged when she heard Yuna admitting to that. After Yuna said what she just said, was there really a place for her to continue acting like she didn't have some fun? Fine. Although I won't retract the statement that it was torture, it was a unique experience, and I enjoyed it as well. Ha ha ha, see. That wasn't that hard, was it? While Anko was grumbling, a small smile appeared on Yuna's face. She was still sitting on top of Anko, so she leaned down and kissed her while grinding her what folds over one of Anko's legs. A few seconds later, they stopped kissing while Yuna was still grinding Anko's leg. Right now, both of them had a smirk on their faces. Well, the evening is still young, Anko. How about we go a few more rounds, but this time we do it more casually. Anko licked her lips in excitement and started slowly massaging Yuna's breasts with her hands while her own pussy started grinding on one of Yuna's legs. Naturally. I have waited a long time for this, so there is no way I will be satisfied after a single orgasm, even if that one almost shattered my mind. Ha ha ha, very good. In that case, no sleep for either of us tonight. Yet again, Anko got a bad feeling but decided to ignore it for now. Another problem future Anko will have to deal with. Chapter 260, Birth of the Uzumaki Clan's Nightmare. Yuna lazily woke up, and yet again, a smile appeared on her face when she felt two soft mounds pressing into her. Unlike Hinata, however, Anko preferred lying on Yuna's left side instead of the right one. Unlike Hinata, who enjoyed getting dominated, Anko had similar preferences as Yuna, so sleeping with Anko turned into a rather intense war for dominance in which the two were constantly switching roles. Although that was utterly different from the night she spent with Hinata, it was nonetheless an enjoyable event. While Yuna was contemplating the last night with Anko started slowly opening her eyes and let loose a lazy yawn. Morning, Yuna. Although Hinata wasn't a morning person either, Anko was significantly worse in that regard. Usually, Yuna wouldn't bother her until she woke up properly, but right now was the perfect chance to tease her a little, which Yuna, naturally, wouldn't ignore. Good morning, Anko. I love you. Anko nodded her head before nuzzling it into Yuna with a loose smile on her face. love you, too. Yuna chuckled a little and started patting Anko's head while eagerly waiting for her to realize what she just said. Yuna found it incredibly amusing that Anko had basically no inhibition while having sex, but the moment she had to say, I love you, she gets flustered like a teenager, which was the exact opposite of how Hinata reacted. Around 5 minutes passed when Yuna noticed that Anko started behaving differently. From what she could see, Anko wanted to pretend like it never happened, but Yuna could easily see through her. She was just about to tease Anko about it when Anko started speaking. Don't say anything about that, or I were. Yuna patiently waited for Anko to come up with something she could blackmail her with, despite being pretty sure that there was nothing. I will bite you. Yuna couldn't help but chuckle a little at Anko's desperate threat before she simply shrugged her shoulders. Oh no. I am so intimidated by that threat that I completely forgot that I wanted to tease you about telling me that you love me. Although Anko pouted in annoyance when Yuna started teasing her anyway, she sighed in relief when she noticed that she was done after a single jab. Saya can understand why Hinata couldn't move her legs after her first night with you. That was pretty crazy. Oh? You made it sound as if you could move your legs. Did I go too easy? Nah, I'm pretty much paralyzed from the waist down, so you better take responsibility just like you did with Hinata. Yuna stood up and picked up Anko in a princess carry without a moment of hesitation, just like she did with Hinata. Of course, Anko-sama. First, let me give you a relaxing bath. Hee, Anko-sama, huh? I could get used to that. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the Uzumaki compound, two people that should never have met. A young woman with brown skin and green hair tilted her head in confusion at the creature that just appeared in front of her. It looked slightly similar to a giant turtle, but it had a massive tail and spikes all over its body. Although the young woman, Fu, wasn't sure why a weird creature like that was roaming around the Uzumaki compound, since no one seemed to be bothered by it, it couldn't be dangerous. In fact, when the turtle approached her, most people in the vicinity took some distance from her while looking at her with pity in their eyes, which Fu found slightly weird. Anyway, since she didn't know who that weird creature in front of her was, she decided to ask for its name for now and introduce herself. Hello, my name is Fu, who are you? The weird turtle's face twisted into something that Fu interpreted as a smile and started speaking with the voice of an innocent young boy. Hello, nice to meet you. My name is Isobo, and I would like to ask you a question. A smile appeared on Fu's face when she heard Isobu's polite and friendly voice. She was just about to continue speaking when Chomai started talking to her. Fu, the one in front of you looks a lot like one of my siblings and even has the same name. Although his form is a little weird, could you ask him if he is the Sanbi? Although Fu was a little taken aback by Chermai's claim that the small turtle in front of her might be the Sanbi, she nevertheless fulfilled Chermai's request. Hey, Isobu. Are you by any chance the Sanbi? The moment Fu asked her question, Isobu looked like a little child that was found with its hand in the cookie jar and started frantically looking around while his eyes were spinning around in his eye sockets. Oh, why you not told me that I could not tell anyone that I'm the Sanbi, so I'm not. Fu breathed in relief when she heard that. Chermai, did you hear him? He is not the Sanbi. Ha ha ha, yes, I heard him. How lucky. It would have been really weird if he actually was the real Isobu. Fu nodded her head and put her attention back on Isobu, who was still fidgeting around like a child that was hoping his lie would go undetected. It's good that you are not the Sanbi, that would have been rather weird. You said you wanted to ask me a question, what is it? Although Isobu wasn't sure why it would have been weird if he was the Sanbi, for now, he was just happy that Fu didn't see through his lie. Oh, okay, that's good. As for my question, I learned a new word, and I wonder if you could explain it to me. A frown appeared on Fu's face when she heard what Isobu's question was about. I'm not really good with stuff like that, but just tell me the word for now, maybe I can help. Isobu's mood immediately improved when he heard that Fu would help him. He didn't understand why, but it got harder and harder for him to find people who had time to answer his questions, so he couldn't help but be happy when he found someone willing to help. Awesome. The word I heard was threesome, do you know what that means? Fu, however, could only tilt her head in confusion when she heard the word Isobu wanted to know about. Sorry, I have never heard that before. Isobu immediately deflated when Fu said that, but his hope returned when Fu appeared to have gotten a good idea. I have an idea, Isobu. Since there is a 3 in the word, maybe we need 3 people to understand it. Let's look for another person and ask them if they have an idea. Isobu's eyes immediately started shining when he heard Fu's suggestion. That's right. I didn't even notice something so obvious. You are really smart, Fu. I guess I occasionally have some good ideas. Come, Isobu, let's go and look for someone else. Now I have gotten curious about it as well. Yes. Let's go. The people who were previously here mysteriously disappeared after seeing Isobu approaching, so the duo had to search for someone. They were just about to start searching when Fu stopped Isobu. I almost forgot about this, will you be my friend, Isobu? Although Isobu was taken aback by that sudden question, a huge smile appeared on his face moments later. Ha ha ha, of course. Let's be friends, Fu. On this day, a new menace appeared inside the Uzumaki compound. Having a weird-looking turtle ask you about perverted things with an innocent voice is already bad enough, but now that turtle was accompanied by a young woman, making the whole affair even more embarrassing. Henceforth, the small group of only 2 people would be known as the ultimate shameplay duo and would roam the Uzumaki compound, striking terror, shame in the hearts of everyone who had the misfortune to meet them. While this unfortunate meeting took place, a dog-sized fox was lazily sleeping in Yuna's bedroom. His face was relaxed and he seemed incredibly comfortable, but his eyes shot open moments later. This is bad. Very bad. I don't know what it is, but it is very bad. I can basically feel the corruption prickling my skin. I need to find the source. Whatever it is, it needs to be cleansed. Although the giant fox, Kurama, had no idea what happened, his instincts were telling him that he had to make a move. It might already be too late, I can only hope to contain the damage as much as possible. And thus, the Uzumaki compound's savior started moving to contain the corruption.